tried the same method of fundraising for my business that Jeff has just attempted, which is matching 5 regular numbers and 1 Powerball number. And so far as I stand before you, I am still seeking capital. This is all you need to know about me. I'm going to echo a lot of the sentiments from my P2E colleagues on the honor, first of all, to be part of the program and the appreciation that we have for each of you as mentors to give us access to you. Your time, your intellect, your own experiences, your advice, it's invaluable to all of us. I'm going to spend a couple of minutes talking about KNOXX, just for those of you who do not know the business model. KNOXX operates in the recruiting space, very similar to Monster, Career Builder, and Indeed, but with a dynamic and unique twist. If you see the tagline and slogan behind me, which says, be seen, be heard, get hired, that starts to define how we differentiate ourselves. The problem with the other sites today out there that we've all probably experienced and utilized is they are all resume-centric. They are driven by the resume. And as we've all discovered, no matter how well crafted that resume is, it cannot communicate all the intangible traits that we ultimately need to have to make a hiring decision. It communicates these basics here. How many times has that led us in a false direction with the candidate because we thought we were getting somebody dynamic and difference-making? But because these questions were not answered in the resume, they were big question marks, we waste so much logistical time in the recruiting process. KNOXX is what it should be. We are candidate-centric. So we are giving candidates a visibility to put themselves front and center with video technology. So the opportunity through a 30 to 90-second video introduction to make their pitch to you on how they're difference makers, how they can impact your business, what they bring to the table. So not only do we answer these questions, but we also answer the key questions that you need to move that process forward, which are their intangible traits, how they can impact the business. You see a sample over here of a video profile with some statistics beside of it. We have plans to mine the video metadata within the candidate video to give both sides deeper layers of engagement with the video medium and process to advance their ability to use that medium effectively. A KNOXX candidate profile looks basically like this. Up top, you see the video. That's what we're emphasizing because that's the differentiator. We're not discounting the resume. We're still including it. We're making that a secondary part of the process. So that candidate's intangibles and their dynamic traits are first of all put front and center before you step into looking at that resume. Because there are many inexperienced candidates who have different making talents. They just need a company to invest in and to train them. But that's a great foundation if you build on it and establish those intangibles. So where are we at right now? Obviously, we've launched in Wichita. We are trying to do 2 things right now. One is we are trying to secure sufficient investment capital to execute our growth objectives. We've made some gains there, but we are still trying to reach the level we need to reach, we feel, to properly execute those growth objectives. We're doing a second thing too, which we are trying to get the city of Wichita to rally behind us. Wichita has a challenge right now, like many markets, which is our homegrown talent, educated here, grown here, is exiting our market because they do not find the types of opportunity they're looking for here. Not because they don't exist, but because they don't have a platform that helps connect them with employers in the market. So this is the E2E Accelerator, right? So let's talk about acceleration. What is our growth strategy? It centers around finding a national career fair partner. And why a national career fair partner? We are going to take our technology, we are going to license it and insert it into this medium. And this national career fair partners, they go through markets around the country, bringing candidates and employers together. We want our KNOXX technology to be the centerpiece of that. So let's say the first event happens to be in Dallas, Texas. That career fair provider, they're going to spend money on promotions to bring candidates and employers into that environment to network with each other. And new groups who did not know KNOXX before are suddenly going to be engaging our platform and aware that we exist. Now, if you follow that career fair relationship out over 6 to 12 months, what happens is we suddenly have presence and visibility in metro markets throughout the country. And the beauty of it is the advertising spend, which would have been perhaps hundreds of thousands of dollars to achieve that level of visibility, is actually accomplished through the career fair promotion piece that's leveraging our technology. Once that's done, when we have these foundation candidate and employer pools in each market, we can start to scale those and vertically, basically broaden our revenue streams through those particular relationships that have already been created through the visibility. Obviously, one of the things we're going to figure out is how do we tap into those opportunities in each market. And then, by the way, Mark, Lou from WSU, and Brent from Newman, don't cover yours for the next 5 seconds. Academic partnerships. we really think there's a great opportunity to basically take a licensed version of KNOXX technology, insert it into that environment, and showcase the students that our academic institutions are producing through their educational programs deeper than just simply that candidate's resume. Also, too, staffing agencies, they make every single dollar off their candidate database. And so we think a customized version of KNOXX in that environment has a lot of merit as well. And then finally, employer applicant flow, to better process the applicant flow employers are dealing with to find those intangibles and those difference members. Obviously, this is Hack Night, the first one of its kind, so here's some of the challenges we're facing. I'll leave these on the screen as we take Q&A, but basically, I have never before taken a product or a service and scaled it from a local market to a regional or national audience. So anybody with expertise in that area, we are looking for someone that we can collaborate with in business development, perhaps as a launch executive. So if you know anyone in your circle of connections that you think I need to be talking to, I would love that introduction. Also, too, we're trying to get some feedback on the growth strategy. What are some things we need to consider that maybe we haven't yet? Executing the sales process. Should we do that with inside sales in some of these markets that are based from Wichita? Should we hire independent contractors in those markets? How should we go about executing the sales process once we get access to these candidate and employer groups? And fourth, expanding the platform here in Wichita itself. Somebody hopefully in the Q&A will say, Mike, what are your problems and challenges with the Wichita market? And I would love to answer that in the Q&A because it's worth explaining. Okay? Very good. Thank you. All right. I'll take your questions. Yes, Brent?
How do you get paid?
How do we get paid? So right now the model is the employers are driving the revenue. Once we initiate a career fair model, a career fair connection, we see some licensing revenue there, but we want to be careful in that price point because we don't want to make it cost prohibitive for the career fair provider. Right now, candidates can use KNOXX free of charge. There is no revenue stream for candidates currently, but I will tell you I think there's merit to having a revenue stream for candidates because with a small investment, maybe it's $9.95 a month, candidates who come into KNOXX, invest in the platform, build a profile. For those who don't want to spend a penny, you can eliminate a good percentage of the competitive workforce just through your willingness to invest in something like KNOXX. So at a certain point down the road, I think there is merit in trying to generate candidate revenue, but I don't think at this stage that would be wise because if I put a price barrier between me and increase the number of candidates in our system, I think it's counterproductive to a good strategy.
Talk to me after about the academic partnerships.
Very good. Wonderful. Thank you, Brian.
So the answer to the question was employers?
Employers currently are driving the revenue. Secondarily, a career fair partner. Thirdly, candidates. And then, of course, too, some of these verticals we talked about as well, with the staffing agencies and the employer applicant flow processing can also be scaled at the right times.
Are there other advertisers that might want to tag on to the platform just to have their name in front that aren't employers?
Yeah, I try not to emphasize it, Kenneth, because I don't want to be a site dominated by advertising revenue. I think there should be a few selected advertisers where you leverage that visibility in a high-value way, but we don't want advertising to really drive the site. Lewis?
When you mentioned employer driving revenue, is that placement fees, monthlies? How does that work for an employee?
It's subscription-based, Lewis. We think that's the most cost-effective way to do it because when you think about employers, they generally have recruiting budgets and a certain amount of resources they've allocated for a certain period of time. Subscription-based services get the best price point for the service, and it's a predictable expense over a period of time for that business that they can effectively manage. I thought that was a little bit better model, more appealing on a broader scale than going with a fee-based service once a hire is made. So I haven't closed my mind on that, but I think that's the direction we need. Yes, Bill?
Are you finding more success in certain types of employers?
Well, I would say this way. I envision KNOXX being best utilized by companies that are frequently conducting efforts in the hiring process. Whether that's high turnover or expansion or whatever it is, I think they're going to get the best merit because they're going to regularly have to engage in the KNOXX process. So I thought that's my target audience, and it may still be. But it's interesting, I've gotten some of the best feedback and the most rave reviews from smaller businesses who just have a hire to make every now and again. But the ability to go into KNOXX and to see this depth of candidate information is just a whole new eye-opener to them about how to go out and source talent. So, in one sense, I think it's these employers who are frequently hiring, but boy, the small businesses too really enjoy that.
Is there any differentiation between the type of employer it is? An accounting firm maybe is not looking for charisma, something like that, versus somebody who's hiring a sales team.
Yeah, Jeff, I think the perception is going to be that we're a white-collar site, although we do have a certain percentage of blue-collar people. There probably 35 to 40% blue-collar. I think the types of businesses that are in the best position to leverage KNOXX from the standpoint of what they do are people who need to make hires that deal with the public, that deal in matters of customer service, that drive sales. Anything where they're going to represent the organization outside of that business, well, it's key to measure things like charisma and energy and intellect and articulation, all those things. I see that's probably the sweet spot.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, yeah. Same.
How does this address a pain point for your revenue driving customers?
Okay, so the pain point it addresses is when we think about businesses, what they're trying to do right now every day is they're trying to do as much as they can with fewer resources, right? When the recruiting process, where we lose is we waste so much time on false leads through phone conversations and interviews that didn't need to be wasted. I mean, most of you guys have been in this one point. I'm a 20-year recruiter, guys. I've been there so many times that I can't even count. But you see a resume, you have this high expectation. You step into the interview, and in the first minute, you just know that's not going anywhere. But you're stuck in that engagement, and you can't get out of it without being unprofessional or disrespectful. So if you could take all those times back, Sam, that we've been in those situations and say, you know what, if I go to a KNOXX candidate profile and I review a 30 to 90-second video, I've got a pretty good idea whether that candidate meets some of these basic intangibles I need to see to make it worth an interview engagement. So I see a more efficient recruiting process. I see less wasted time, which frees them up to do other things they're tasked with doing. So I think that's the pain point proposition, Sam, that we're trying to address.
Are you,
Yes. Sorry.
have you thought about going through headhunters? They already have the employers, and I mean, they get
That's
paid
the-
for speed needs.
Absolutely. That's the staffing agency piece.
Okay.
Again, every dollar that they make is driven by the candidate pool they can put in front of an employer. Well, I've recruited from staffing agencies, and although it does save me some time because I'm not buried in 500 resumes, they still send me 7 to 10 resumes and try their best to explain why I should be talking to this candidate. But all those intangibles are still unknown to me until I create that engagement. So I see a situation where imagine if the staffing agency comes into a customized licensed version of KNOXX for their business, and the employer comes in and says, hey, I've looked at these candidates for marketing. I'd like to interview candidate 112, candidate 416, and candidate 722. Staffing agency, that's great. They set up those interviews, that connection is made, and it's just such a much more efficient, tech-driven way to complete the recruiting process. Yeah, Mark.
So Mike, 3 years from now, who's your competitors? What keeps Monster and Zip and everybody coming out with the same thing?
Yeah, great question. Nothing prevents them from doing it, Mark. Now that may sound like a scary answer, but here's my observation of those players. Career Builder and Monster, folks, they were innovative when they launched, but their innovation virtually stopped right there. We've seen the evolution of Facebook, of YouTube, of Skype, all these technology mediums that Career Builder and Monster could be making themselves better, but they're not. They're sticking to these rigid career models. They have a pretty strong history, Career Builder and Monster, of M&A activity, meaning that when they see a threat in the market, they don't innovate, they buy innovation. If anything else, I can see a scenario where KNOXX could potentially receive some acquisition overages at a certain point down the road, but I do not see them trying to duplicate us because market still have to compete with us. And most of those companies, if they could buy you out as opposed to competing with you, they'd much rather have that alternative. So I've just seen these rigid, unchanging models that make me not worry terribly about that.
One last question.
Yes?
I guess on that same token, if they add, if your true differentiator is adding these other strength candidates of statistics now, or videos, and they add that, do you have a algorithm to help organize this metadata and consume it, or what is your...
We do, yeah, we do. We are going to pursue process IP on mining the video metadata. And we're going to look at things like, voice tone. Voice tone sometimes communicates a certain level of confidence.
Are you doing some of this now already?
We're diagramming the wireframe of how that needs to work and what technologies we need to bring to bear to create that algorithm. So we're in the process of planning for that. But you can measure so many things that when you put it together in an analytical scoring system, make it a unique element that has some proprietary potential with it. So that's what we're building right now. Can I make one comment too about Wichita? Yeah, go for it. Great. I just want to make sure I get this in there. So Wichita, I grew up here. I love my city. But I will tell you that Wichita generally is cautious, they're a little conservative, they're a little guarded about trying something new unless someone that they know tells them that they should do it. I liken it to blind dating. We've all been there probably one point or another. But I like it to a blind date. So here's how it basically goes. If a friend that I know really well tells me, Mike, there's this great girl you should meet, I'm going to be more likely to go, okay, I'll have dinner with her. If my friend says I should meet with her, then I'll meet with her. In the absence of that introduction, I'm a little leery about taking that blind date meeting. So when I see E2E, E2E is basically like my KNOXX friend that says to Wichita as a friend, hey Wichita, I've seen this Mike Mathiah guy. He's a decent guy. He's got a great idea. And you should really hear him out. That's what I needed in Wichita, because it's been so hard, honestly, to get those doors open, because maybe they don't know me, or maybe they don't know Alex. So any of my E2 friends, mentors, and partners, those introductions, warm introductions, blind dates, if you will, we have with them.